In 2001, 13-year-old Lionel Tate was the youngest American citizen ever sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole when he was convicted of first-degree murder for the 1999 death of 6-year-old Tiffany Unick in Broward County, Florida. Hey friends, I'm Xavier, and I am back with another Black Case file for you. I know I've been gone for a while. I promise it was not intentional. I had some issues, health issues. Most recently, I broke my toe, so we're working with that. Anyways, typically I talk about cases that tend to focus on people of color, and the topics vary. Sometimes it's murders, sometimes it's history, sometimes conspiracies. Sometimes it's sometimes a murder mystery conspiracy from history. Anyways, if you like this kind of content, just make sure to hit that lovely red subscribe button. You can also find me on Instagram at The Black Case Files. I try to stay on TikTok. I haven't really done much with it. But anyways, I have a little playlist that I add all of these to that should be showing right there. Binge it, have fun, enjoy. Let's get into it. Lionel Alexander Tate was a typical teenage boy who loved wrestling. This all changed on July 28, 1999. It started as a typical date. His mom, who was at the time a Florida state trooper, was babysitting a local 6-year-old girl, Tiffany Unick, and he was watching wrestling. Lionel decided to practice some of his moves that he saw on WWF SmackDown, and he showed some of the moves with Tiffany. While the children were downstairs playing, Tate's mother called to them to be quiet. You know, they're roughhousing, they're making a lot of noise. Anyway, Tate came up about 45 minutes later to say that Unick wasn't breathing. He said that while they were wrestling, he had her in a headlock and the child's head hit a table. Only Unick and Tate were present when this occurred. So considering that he was 12 and 170 pounds and she was 6 and 48 pounds, this was a horrendous idea that led to devastating results. Tiffany ended up stomped to death. The coroner's report, the cause of death is listed as blunt force trauma. Lionel injured her to the extent that she bled from all of her upper orifices, her mouth, her nose, her eyes, her ears. Her skull was fractured in several places and her ribs were cracked. Part of her brain was flattened inside of her head, and the beating that Lionel gave to her was so severe that part of Tiffany's liver broke loose and was just floating free inside of her body. Lionel's mother, as I said, is a state trooper. Her name was Kathleen Tate, and she claims that her son was just playing with Tiffany and that her death was the result of a tragic accident. On January 26, Ms. Tate said that she couldn't believe it when the Broward County Circuit Court jury in her son's trial for Tiffany's murder returned a guilty verdict. And this was after 3 hours of deliberation. She was certain they'd acquit him. Well, there is plenty of evidence to suggest that Lionel was responsible, completely responsible for his actions, and also that he knew what he had done was wrong. For instance, when police came to arrest him, he protested that all he'd done was give Tiffany a bear hug. Later, he confessed that he had attempted to throw her onto a couch, but missed, and instead threw her into the banister of the stairs. And later, as he was pressured to tell the whole story, more horrors were revealed, which could lead one to think that this schoolyard bully knew his level of violence had been way over the top all along. Judge Joe Lazarus apparently was thinking of this. He refused to reduce Lionel Tate's first-degree murder conviction to a lesser degree. He also undoubtedly thinking of all the media hoopla that was arranged by Lionel's lawyer and his mother, who appeared, and it was just a non-stop press tour of sorts. Morning news, talk shows, press conferences, and this was all designed to organize an outpouring of sympathy for Lionel. Again, he's a child. Well, Lionel Tate was tried as an adult under a Florida law which does not require him to have the actual intent to kill to be convicted of first-degree murder. He didn't have to say, I am going to kill Tiffany Eunuch. All that was required was that he intended to act, not that he intended the result. However, his defense attorney, Jim Lewis, never argued that he didn't kill Tiffany Eunuch. I mean, she was dead. There's no question on that. However, his defense was based upon the boy, keyword boy, his love of professional wrestling, which, I mean, it depicts scripted, choreographed acts of extreme violence. And he stated that it wasn't his fault that Tiffany was killed. It was the fault of the World Wrestling Federation. He believed that Lionel Tate should be pitied and not punished. After the guilty verdict was handed down from the circuit court, his case went before Judge Joel Lazarus for sentencing. He appealed for clemency to then Florida Governor Jeb Bush to see if his sentence could be commuted to a lesser prison term. I mean, pending that hearing, Governor Bush ordered that Lionel be housed in a juvenile lockup because he was a juvenile. After the conviction, the prosecution openly joined Tate's plea for leniency in sentencing and even offered to help in his appeal. The trial judge criticized the prosecution for compromising the integrity of the adversarial system, and the judge said that if the prosecution felt that life imprisonment was not warranted, they should not have charged him with murder in the first place. In January 2004, a state's appeal court overturned his conviction on the basis that his mental competency had not been evaluated before trial. Again, this was a child, a teenage child. This opened the way for Lionel to accept the same plea deal he originally turned down, and he was released on 1 year's house arrest and 10 years probation. It was while he was on probation in September of 2004 that police found him a few blocks from his house at 2 a.m. carrying an 8-inch knife. Broward Circuit Court Judge Joel Lazarus added another 5 years onto his probation. 9 months later, he was busted for the pizza stick-up. And because of his past problems, this one could really put him away for life. Out in Miami-Dade County, Tate had been sitting inside a prison cell at the Everglades Correctional Institute for a crime he almost certainly didn't commit. This is a different crime. In fact, 2 South Florida private investigators alleged that DNA evidence as well as 2 new victim statements proved that Lionel Tate likely didn't rob at gunpoint a Domino's pizza delivery man inside an apartment in 2005. So this would have been right after he was released. Here's what happened. And this is according to Tate's arrest report. The victim was delivering pizza at 4 in the afternoon to a particular apartment just north of the Miami-Dade County line of Broward. And initially there was no answer at the door on the second floor apartment, so the victim turned around to leave. Then the delivery guy heard someone yell, "Hey!" while he was descending the stairs. He walked back, saw the particular unit door slightly open, and he walked in, figuring this is where the shout came from. Okay. Well, behind the door, the victim told detectives that there was a black man with a black bandana covering his mouth and pointing in what he described as an old handgun at him. Later that evening, the victim identified Lionel Tate. At first, it seemed the evidence against him was strong. He admitted calling Domino's to order pizza, and when police searched the apartment of what he considered a one-time neighborhood friend, Willie Carruthers, they found a pair of maroon shorts that the victim claimed the assailant wore. They contained traces of Lionel Tate's DNA. He even accepted a plea deal, but then he changed his mind. Now, there's some private eyes who are working on this case, and they uncovered evidence that should lead cops to further probe the role of Carruthers, the person whose apartment it was, who was 16-year-old at the time of the pizza incident, and he happened to live on the first floor of the building where the crime took place. Well, despite several calls to a cell phone listed on public records and 3 visits to the last known address in Miramar, well, they couldn't reach Carruthers for comment. An aspiring rapper who goes by the handle Little Will, Carruthers met Tate through mutual friends sometime in late 2000. And this is according to a sworn statement that Carruthers gave prosecutors in September of 2005. He said some days I would see him walking to school, but I never said anything to him until he started coming around where I live. On the day of the robbery, Tate sent Carruthers a message saying, "You still want to bust that lick after school?" Now, just so you understand, a lick usually means like a hit or stick up, and in the statement, Carruthers explained that bust that lick is slang for robbery, and that Tate was referring to stealing from an unidentified teenager from Hollywood, Florida, who carried around a lot of money, but that never happened. Carruthers said that was all talk. Well, Carruthers now claimed that he was on the sidewalk outside of the apartment building when the victim drove up. He said Lionel was at the top of the staircase, and Carruthers told the attorney, he said, "I ordered the pizza." Lionel goes into the house and the pizza man is like right behind him. This is all from Carruthers. A couple of seconds later, Carruthers said he heard the victim scream and saw Lionel waving a gun at the man. Carruthers said the man falls, boom, and then either he fell down the stairs or he ran. Carruthers said he's screaming, "Help, help, help." Well, that doesn't quite match with the victim's account. The victim said he didn't see anyone before knocking on the particular unit, and Carruthers, whose fingerprints were on the pizza boxes, or they were found on one of the pizza boxes, didn't mention the black bandana, which should have been obvious. So now you have another person who enters the store, Mr. Tompkins, who was 12 years old and lived in the apartment where the robbery took place. Initially, he told the detectives that he saw Tate rob the victim. 2 months after the robbery, though, he recanted his story. During an October 11th, 2005 sworn deposition, Tompkins claimed Tate wasn't there. When the pizza guy entered the apartment, Carruthers was standing by the front door with a gun tucked under his waistband. "I saw him take it out," Tompkins stated, "and that's when I ran in my mom's room, and that's when I heard a scream." Asked by Tate's defense attorney why he didn't identify Carruthers from the beginning, well, Tompkins replied, "I was scared, and he said he was going to kill me." Then there's the story told by Zawalski Edwards, who was a convicted felon who called Tate's defense team from jail. Now, the private eyes who were privately working on this case say Edwards was in Carruthers' apartment the night of the robbery. He claimed he saw Carruthers wearing the maroon shorts and then putting them on top of the cabinet where the cops found it. Edwards has nothing to gain by implicating Carruthers. He says this isn't about law enforcement, so it's not like we can offer him anything. So what would he actually gain? There is no benefit for him, which gives a bit more credibility. In a forensic case report by a Virginia-based technology group, well, they turned up significant traces of Carruthers' DNA on the black bandana police say was used in the armed robbery. Well, based on the new DNA evidence, Judge Lazarus agreed to delay the trial, which had been set for April at that time, while the next hearing would be held in September. Be honest, reports are saying it's time for prosecutors to drop that case against Tate. This is coming from the private eyes. They told Assistant Broward State's Attorney Charles Morton, who was State's Attorney at the time, about the exculpatory evidence, but he doesn't want to hear anything that would exonerate Lionel. No, they got the wrong guy, but they are not going to do anything about it. And this was the private eye who's saying this, Joe Carrillo. Broward Sheriff spokesman at the time, Elliot Cohen, dismisses the private eye's charges, saying I'd expect nothing less from 2 people who are working for the person they are trying to exonerate. He goes on to say the court record is extensive and pretty clear. So that is the sad story of Lionel Tate. I will catch you next time. I upload as often as I can. I will no longer say 3 to 4 times a week because everything just keeps exploding. There's a lot going on. So Anyways, I upload as often as I can, but I usually consistently upload on the Black Case Files on Instagram, at least when I'm getting ready to upload, so at least you can keep up that way. In the meantime, hit that red subscribe button and you'll keep getting notified. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you next time on the Black Case Files. Bye.